Greetings, everyone. You're welcome to the JMA Connections. Today is Tuesday, the 14th day of April, and the year is 2026. I'm delighted to be here today to say hello to everyone and for us to continue our crusade of information, of communication, of sensitization, and most especially of mobilization. So I'm glad to be here, and I want to extend very hearty regards to all our people of the southern Cameroons, especially those who are IDPs on the territory, or those who are refugees on the territory of La République du Cameroon. IDPs are those who are displaced internally within the territory of the southern Cameroons. And if you are in the territory of La République du Cameroon, you are not an IDP, you are a refugee. And so I'm extending hearty regards to our refugees who are in La République du Cameroon against the currents and who are facing very challenging situations out there on a daily basis. I really, have a lot of pain sometimes going through some of the difficulties that you all are facing out there, but continuing to endure, because by day and by night, you continue to be deceived that one day something will happen and take us back to some, some utopic thought called normalcy. Normalcy will never ever return for anything linking La République du Cameroon and the southern Cameroons, because it will never ever be business as usual again. So it is important that people note this and note it very well. So I'm extending hearty regards to southern Cameroonians who are refugees in the territory of La République du Cameroon. And there's a particular case happening in Douala that we will talk about just before we get into the heart of our discussion. And of course, you are aware that Pope Leo XIV will finally touch ground in La République du Cameroon in Yaoundé at 3:20 p.m. this Wednesday, the 15th day of April 2026. And so the last thing I learned was that it seems official that the Pope will be received by the Prime Minister, so-called head of government, Joseph Dion Ngute. And so the undercurrents that were going on about Franck Biya being the one to officially receive the Pope appear not to have prevailed. I say appear because Cameroon is what they call in French, they themselves, they call it un pays de Wonderfulkistan. So anything can still change even at the very last minute. But one thing that has remained a constant is that I've been, told that Franck will be at the airport. So even if he's not the one officially receiving the Pope, he will be at the airport, as I've been told. And so we'll be looking out to see how things happen that way. And when the Pope gets to La République du Cameroon, of course, we know that the focus for us is what happens when he gets to Bamenda. There have been some light changes to his schedule in Yaoundé, especially because the government of La République du Cameroon is hell-bent on controlling every bit of discussion that will happen between the Pope and any of the interlocutors that will be allowed to say a word in his presence. So what is happening in Yaoundé should be a harbinger of exactly what will happen in Bamenda. And so I will be discussing this within the framework of this broadcast. But before I get to that, I have received quite some messages, and I got, some comments on some of my outings. And finally, I did have the opportunity to talk with someone yesterday who sent me a video and a lengthy message from one of the platforms where we've had, enormous talks about the plebiscite question, visits to the United Nations, and all of those things regarding the freedom of the Southern Cameroons. And what I was amazed at was the fact that on that platform, they have been seriously, bashing and demeaning Professor Carson Anyangwe, the very erudite Professor Carson Anyangwe that we all know, on basis of an interview of, a time he passed on my platform with Comrade Alem Alemanji, where we talked about what happened in the southern Cameroons. And during that passage, Professor Carlson Anyangwe made a statement which unfortunately got seriously misconstrued. So it's when I placed a call with this individual yesterday, and in communication, I realized that all that news was about a statement that Professor Carlson Anyangwe made, which is a statement of fact, but which, because of the ignorance of even the person who is purporting to, be the Nwalimo of our time, you go ahead to cause someone's, academic credential to be put to question. Professor Carlson Anyangwe said this, and I'll reiterate what he said. Professor Carlson Anyangwe said that while there's even so much debate as to the name of the Southern Cameroons, whether it should be Southern Cameroons, or whether it should be Ambazonia, or whatsoever, he wanted to make clear to each and every one that while we are talking about British Southern Cameroons, there is nothing, there is no such things in the records at the United Nations as Southern Cameroons. And Professor Carlson Anyangwe was absolutely correct. It's a statement of fact. But what people did not understand is that Professor Carlson Anyangwe is not saying that the Southern Cameroons is not recognized at the United Nations. He was saying that the appellation that is at the United Nations is British Cameroons, not British Southern Cameroons. It's British Cameroons, and for good reason. I like to elucidate on it very briefly so that you understand. When the Germans were defeated in World War I, and their territories, their colonies were taken and shared out between the French and the British, Cameroon, with K-A-M-R-U-N, the German Cameroon, was divided into two. The bigger half was given to France, and it became known as French Cameroon. The smaller part was given to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and it was known as British Cameroons. British Cameroon. But it became known eventually as British Cameroon with an S because the British, for administrative convenience, divided their territory into two. What did they do? They divided the British Cameroons into Southern Cameroons and Northern Cameroons. You understand what I'm saying? Northern Cameroon, not Northern of La République du Cameroun, no. Northern of British Cameroon and the southern of British Cameroon. And so it now became known as the British Cameroons. So Northern Cameroon was aligned and administered with parts of Northern Nigeria. And Southern Cameroon was administered and aligned with Eastern Nigeria. That's why we were governed from Enugu. So the name at the United Nations was not British Southern Cameroons, it was British Cameroons. That's what Professor Carlson Anyangwe was talking about. Professor Carlson Anyangwe was not saying the United Nations does not recognize British Southern Cameroons. And so during the plebiscite, the people of British Northern Cameroons voted to join Nigeria, and those of British Southern Cameroons voted to join La République du Cameroun, each of them upon achieving independence. And the people of the British Northern Cameroons have two states in Nigeria. This is what it is. So if you don't know, sometimes listen to people, try to understand what they are saying. Don't just be quick to attack and insult people. These are historical facts that can be verified. So they did not give our territory as a mandated territory to the British as two separate territories. It was one territory that they broke into two for administrative convenience. That's what it is. That's what it was. You can't change this. So those of you who are following on that platform, help me educate this gentleman to the effect that sometimes we should have the humility just to find out something that someone says rather than run simply into conclusions. So what you have there is British Cameroons. Simply it. Just some light correction that has got nothing to do with whatever we are fighting for. The substance of what we are fighting for is a self-determination we should focus on. So that said, I like to move into the Pope's visit. But before I do that, as I promised, I'll stop briefly in Douala. I'm going to Douala to talk about something that has become a pattern. Because you see, I have tried a lot on this platform to educate the people of the Southern Cameroons who are in La République du Cameroun to understand that you will never be treated as human beings. As much as you can, go home. Go home. If you can't go home, if you can move out of there to another place, do. But on a daily basis, they are being tortured. They are being looted. They are being dehumanized. And I say this every day. You see, some people used to come and say, oh, look at our Bamenda. That our Bamenda is finished because of war and all or not. And I was laughing. Recently, videos are emerging of wonderful constructions that are taking place in that same Bamenda. That people can, oh, it is finished, it is this, it is that. Our people are a self-reliant people. Our people are a people who know how to withstand difficult situations and challenges. But at the same time, we're people who know our right. Who, despite the odds, we will stand and we will fight for what we believe in. But while we are fighting, we are moving. I also saw a picture of Biya. They say, oh my goodness, see, the city is getting so well planned, so seriously. Of course. These places will be even better, far better, by the time the last vestiges of La République du Cameroon's colonial presence in our territory have been wiped out. This is what it is. It happened elsewhere, and it will happen in the Southern Cameroons. So the case I'm looking at here is the case of one Mr. Philip Atsan. Mr. Philip Atsan is a Southern Cameroonian based in Douala. Mr. Philip Atsan is a car dealer. He buys cars, even sometimes on auctions from the various companies. Most of these companies that buy cars en masse use them for their operations. Some of them international organizations, and all of those. And at the end of their missions, they sell their vehicles by auction. So Mr. Philip buys these cars on auction, arranges them, gets them worked on, fixes whatever might be bad in most of those cars, and flips them. And he does that and gets his benefit. And so he always does this by obtaining loans from credit union establishments or institutions in Douala. And when he does that, too often when he goes for this auction and buys, the banks, the credit union will keep the documents. And when they keep the documents of the car, so that when he sells and there's a deal, they will come pay straight to the credit union until they've recovered all their money, and Mr. Philip Atsan will get his benefit. Mr. Philip Atsan got unfortunate in December of 2025. His son was so seriously injured following a motor accident and was on oxygen at Hôpital La Quintine. So Mr. Philip Atsan was in a haste to sell at least one of those cars that he had recently acquired through the credit union to take care of the needs of his son. In this process, a lady showed up. And this lady actually came even as a customer through the credit union. He was introduced to Mr. Atsan through the credit union. That was also helping to connect clients to their customer so that he will complete his business, pay them off, and make his profit. This Bamileke lady by name Bobda Fotso Pauline saw one of the cars, a RAV car, and decided that I will buy this RAV4. When she looked at it, they complained that there were some areas on the car that were rusted from standing on the ground a bit long, Douala with the sun and all of those things. And so this car was arranged. The lady gave an advance of 1 million CFA to move the car, which the bank received. And she chose her own garage to take the car to, so they should do the repairs. That car was taken to the garage. To a garage of Madame Bobda's choice, recommended to her by her own person. She took it to her own garage. And Mr. Hassan spent a whooping 800,000 at that garage for a deal of 6.5 million. At the end of the day, the car was thoroughly fixed at that garage, and then Madame Bobda went to the garage that she chose, and they confirmed everything was all right, the car was okay, and they took the car to the bank. Madame Bobda was satisfied, and she paid the money into Mr. Philip Hassan's account at the bank, and the bank released the official documents of the car title and everything. And this, when they were released, the only thing left was for these people to go and do a sales certificate. Something happened along the line. While they were preparing to meet to do a sales certificate, it seems it was observed that there was a little hole that came out apparently from somewhere else by the door, the front door of the car. Whatever caused it, difficult to tell. Was it a problem of panel beating and whatsoever? No one can tell. But at this point, Madame Foto Bobda said, no, I no longer want this car. I want back my money. The bank had collected the money, released the car documents for the two people to go do sales certificates and everything and do an exchange of paperwork and then close the deal. But at this point, Madame Bobda says, no, I need my money. The bank had collected their money. They can't give money. Mr. Philip Hassan, the little gains he made from the car, he was rushing to take care of his son in the hospital. But he got a call. Meet us at this commissariat or whatsoever, whether it's gendarmerie or whatsoever. Let them complete the paperwork of the car and all of those things. That was in December. Mr. Philip Hassan shows up and finds himself at the Brigade de Recherche in Dokbong in Douala, where he was going to close the deal for the sales of his car, not knowing there was any problem. And when he got there, they told him, all we want you to do is collect this car, pay back the 6.5 million to Madame Bobda Foto Pauline. All the story narrated about the bank already having collected the money. He doesn't have the money. He needs to sell therefore another car, or he needs to sell the same car to someone else to reimburse the money. None of those stories were accepted. I guess he had about 1.5 million, which was either it was his profit or it was money he could scoop from somewhere else and say, okay, let me start by paying back. And then I do a payment plan and we'll repay this money. Never. They said 100%. But Madame Bobda Foto Pauline knows he paid the money in the bank at the credit union, not to this gentleman. Boop. Mr. Philip Hassan was detained. And while Mr. Philip Hassan is detained, what does the brigade begin to do? The brigade commander begins offering him 3.5 million for a car of 6.5 million in exchange for any arrangement for him to take that money, advance it to Madame Bobda, and then make an agreement and go out and look for money somewhere else to come and complete that money. He said no, but other people showed up at the brigade interested in the car and wanted to go test this car themselves and see if they could fix whatever they were complaining was there and buy this car. All the gendarmes would do is bring up all kinds of discouragement, say all kinds of horrible things about that car, and at the end of the day, even when they insisted to try, because I spoke to all those who passed around there, including the neutral mechanic, whom I'm just from talking to on the phone. We have a recording that I'll quote some other times and play, because I want Southern Cameroonians to understand this. This is the daily log, because Mr. Philip Hassan is one among many who are getting all of these issues in La République du Cameroon on a daily basis. It's not like this is something that's isolated. I get these stories every day. But just as some are not courageous enough to give me the opportunity to dig into this story. But a friend of mine, who is a barrister in Douala, happened to be acquainted to this case and decided to talk to me about it. And I'm using this to tell our people, this is who they are. And this is a commercial issue. How does a commercial issue end up with somebody being locked up and being criminally charged? Finally, the tragedy in all this that makes me talk about this is that while Mr. Philip Atsan has been in detention since December 2025 to this date, that son he was struggling to sell this car to go take care of is dead. But Mr. Philip Atsan will not even be allowed to go take part in the burial of his own son. Recently, he was transferred on awaiting trial at the New Bell prison. A kangaroo hearing took place last week, and they found Mr. Philip Atsan guilty as charged. They now talk about theft by false pretense and all kinds of things for a car, I beg your pardon, that someone saw, tested, took it to her own mechanic to do expert review, and caused the seller to pay money to her own mechanic to do fixes on the car. And at the end of the day, you are accusing the same person of theft by false pretense. Today, I understand that Mr. Philip Atsan will be sentenced on the 24th of April. And obviously, they are going to hand him jail time. But while that is ongoing, the brigade commander and others are doing everything to auction Mr. Philip's car to themselves. That is what they do. Because they have blocked every opportunity for him to sell that car at a rate that will be beneficial to him. Because they've looked at it, they want it, and they want to keep it for themselves. And now they're offering him 3.5 million, and he's drilling down. Now that he's been found guilty and is facing sentencing, they have even stepped down to 2.5 million. They know at the end of the day that they will own the car. He will rot in jail. He will not even have the opportunity to go bury his son for the simple reason that he's a Southern Cameroonian. Because that is all that happens in La République du Cameroon with our people. They have nobody to protect them. Even when they have our own sons and daughters within the forces of La République du Cameroon, 90% of the time, they prefer to speak French because they don't want to unveil their identity, because they have to participate in the scam and in the extortion. This is why I continually tell our people, be careful. We saw what happened in Yaoundé, where they destroyed the businesses of Southern Cameroonians established there, doing upholstery and all of those things. They destroyed, scattered, burned, shattered. Just like that. This is what happens on a daily basis. Yet we don't learn. I will continue to take this opportunity to tell our people who are in La République du Cameroon, retreat when you can. And some of them are even taken to the hinterlands of La République du Cameroon by some of us in the diaspora. We'll sit and happen to hear, oh, land is cheap somewhere deep inside Mayomesala. You can get 50 hectares of land for money that if you convert in dollars is less than $30,000. You buy and carry family members all the way from the Southern Cameroons into the hinterlands of Mayomesala to go and oversee farming. And at the end of the day, most of them end up there getting horrible treatment. You can do this investment back in our homeland. The war is going on. But people are investing in the Southern Cameroons. People are doing that. People are doing everything to keep our people on the ground and to keep them busy. We have to think out of the box, my dear people of Southern Cameroons. We have to think out of the box and bother not only about our own well-being. Let's bother about the well-being of all our people, of our brothers and sisters that we inadvertently send in harm's way. We need to care about this. We need to care about this. This is very important. Mr. Philip Atsan's case is very pathetic. I spoke to the mechanic who told me he's horrified that is how things have turned. But this is not an isolated case. It's a pattern. Let's get back now to the Pope. As I said earlier, Pope Leo will arrive in Yaoundé this Wednesday, and when he arrives at 3:20 p.m. at the airport, he will move to the Unity Palace of La République du Cameroon, where he will meet with Paul Biya. But you know, he had to, after meeting with Paul Biya for 30 minutes, leave from the presidential palace to Palais de Congrès in Yaoundé, where he's expected to meet with members of the civil society, diplomats, and some members of the constituted corps. Now, this meeting has been moved from the conference center to the Unity Palace. Want to know why? When I saw this, when I received information about those changes, I was inquisitive. I said, but why would they make that change? Why would they want so many people to move into the Unity Palace rather than? But the thing dawned onto me that because they were unhappy with the quality or with the names of some of the people who were shortlisted to meet the Pope. And so to do an extra, that to filter further, they decided that everything will be moved to the Unity Palace, because that way they will block access to people from the civil society whom they do not want to have anything to do or to show up anywhere where the Pope is present. And because those that they want to allow to have any exchanges with the Pope are those who will be teleguided to say exactly the things that they have told them to say. And when I looked at this, I said, okay, so how would the situation be in Bamenda, where the Pope is also expected to meet with some members of the civil society? Turns out the meeting that the Pope is expected to have with some members of the civil society in Bamenda is going to follow the same pattern like the one in Yaoundé. Now the composition is clearer. Those that have shortlisted to meet with the Pope will be representatives of commercial motorbike riders, will be some selected IDPs. And recall, in my last discourse, I already pointed out here the nature of the IDPs that will be picked. These are people who are picked to come with grievances against the liberation movement of the people of the southern Cameroons. These are people who are picked to come and claim how some so-called Amber boys had done this or that thing to them, ruined their lives and caused them to be where they are. What are commercial motorbike riders going to say there? Now, teachers, they're not too sure what they're going to say. So teachers, no. Nobody representing teachers will be there. What about the lawyers? No. Nobody representing the lawyers will be there. What civil society are you talking about here? And that's not all. We are told, I've been informed, that the way the discussions will happen will be you are brought in to pass a specific message to the Pope. When you get up and you say whatever you have said to the Pope, it ends there. You are not to ask questions. So what, therefore, is the purpose of this visit? What is the purpose of this visit? I said before that one thing La République du Cameroun excels in very seriously is make-believe. They excel very seriously in make-believe. And so, therefore, all these maneuvers are simply meant to try to give a completely different presentation of a situation in the pious hope that they will also get the Pope now to enlist, will say, oh no, you see, the Cameroon government is the victim and the victims are the oppressors. Because that is what they have been fighting to sell to the world as narrative for a long time until now. Like I said in my previous broadcast, you're a social media warrior, make good use of the social media now. You are posting on X, you are posting on Facebook, you are posting on what? Make sure you always have that full mention, Pope Leo 14, visit to Southern Cameroon or visit to Bamenda in your statements. Because when the communications department at the Vatican go into the search engine, everything mentioning Pope Leo 14 and his visit to Bamenda and to other parts of Cameroon will come up. They will see what you have written. Don't be fooled to think that they will tell you that if you go on social media talking, you're just making but noise. No. At the end of the day, they will capture all of what is being said about this visit. They will also analyze this. And I assure you, social media has power. Make no mistake about this. Social media has power. Even entire nation states understand this and are making exemplary use of social media. Let's make good use of it. Let's use it to good effect all these days that the Pope is around, especially beginning this day like this Tuesday all the way to weekend. Make very good use of your social media presence. Even if it's on TikTok, say whatever you are saying. Tag the Vatican. Tag the Vatican. Everything that you are putting up, you know the truth. You have pictures of whatever is happening, videos of whatever is happening that you have to share. Share on social media. Tag the Vatican. These messages will get to where you want them to get to. They want to circumvent us. They want to paint a completely different reality. We must be able to overcome this challenge. This is why I'm here. This is why I come here all the time to talk about this, to get our people to understand the need to mobilize for it. At the level of the consortium, of course, we came out with a good document, of course, whose content I will share in my, I guess, in my broadcast of tomorrow, because I know they also watch here. They will have it here. It's on my Facebook page. We're sharing it everywhere. And of course, I'm hoping that the local newspapers pick this up too. And one way or the other, we will end up getting the true picture of the situation to the Pope and to the people at the Holy See. But make no mistake, do not think I'm naive enough to think that the Pope and the Vatican are not aware of what is happening. But we will not allow them the opportunity to give us the impression that they actually came to the field and got something different from what they knew before. That they got to the field and got something different from what is supposed to be the truth. That is why we have to play our role. That is why we have to go all out. And to close, I followed some audio from Sama Thomas and from some freedom fighters on the ground, the armed ones, who said they saw some fabric being made, and that fabric is bearing the effigy of Pope Leo XIV and of Paul Biya, and they were saying, they were passing out a sound warning that people should not wear this, because if you wear it, in fact, you wonder how you have, the representative of St. Peter on earth, standing side by side a Sangobinatan, standing side by side a genocidaire, and you take that thing to wear on your body. And they said, if you are doing that, then something must be wrong with you. But me, I simply say, if you are doing that, then you are even desecrating yourself. Desecrating yourself. Because, to me, and I pointed out earlier, that everything appears wrong with this particular visit, because previous papal visits to that triangle have never changed anything, have never brought anything positive. Pope John Paul II came to Bamenda. That's not the first time a Pope will be visiting Bamenda. Pope John Paul the second got to Bamenda. I think it's just Pope Benedict who didn't get to Bamenda. And now Pope Leo is getting to Bamenda. So it's not something new. But their passage have never changed anything, have never brought any positivity. So coming to stand with an ailing nonagenarian, a genocidaire, who is unrepentant in his penchant towards constant dehumanization of a people, towards continually pushing a scorched earth policy, with his talks looting the people on a daily basis, with his talks destroying lives, stealing, raping, maiming, and every now and then getting into stop and freeze. You go into Bamenda now, the military presence in Bamenda is like you have never seen anywhere else in the world. I'm sure almost 2/3 of the Cameroon military are in Bamenda presently. That's, you have a situation where the military is almost outnumbering the civilian population. And now I heard from some church leaders in Bamenda, I mean the other churches who are not Catholic, that they received, tickets, access tickets to the area where the Pope will be saying Mass, where the pontifical Mass will take place, and announced it in their congregations for people to pick them up. A good lot of them still have those tickets in their hands, even as we speak. People are not showing up to pick them up for simple reasons. They ask themselves, how are we going to find our way to Bafoot with the military everywhere? When the Apostolic Nuncio was visiting Bamenda, the town was so militarized such that the Apostolic Nuncio himself was surrounded only by elements of the B. I asked them, what image of people who are telling us that we should trust God for our protection, trust God for our security? I'm not saying I don't trust God, because I trust God with all my heart, with all my soul, all my mind. Yet, the Pope is arriving now, the level of militarization is beyond imagination. What is he coming for? To be in communion with the people? Even as I speak, a lot of bad things are going on in Bamenda. There's stop and frisk, what they call in French, calé, going on there every now and then. So I'm taking the opportunity of this discussion to tell you, if you're in Bamenda, if you want to step out to eat yourself, make sure you have your identification papers on you. But if you really have no business, no serious thing doing anywhere, don't let 6 p.m. meet you outside of your house between now until when the Pope comes and leaves. Make sure about that. Don't leave your house after 6 p.m. Do everything to stay safe while we watch and see what drama they are trying to unveil. I want to thank each and every one of you who was part of this broadcast. Thank you very much for your very kind attention. And if it's the first time you were joining us on the GMA Connections, please do well to hit the subscribe button and then personalize, so that anytime something new drops here, you will be the first to know. Because when the news breaks, we meet here to make greater meaning out of it. And of course, do not forget to drop a comment. And I invite each and every one of us to comment, be part of the conversation. But please continue to observe the rules. No insults, be constructive, present your argument clearly and concisely, just so that we continue to advance our cause for freedom. And of course, do well to share the link as much as possible. Let's reach as many people as we can. And do not forget to hit that like button. It generally goes a long way. Thank you very much for your very kind attention. To God be the glory.
Vous savez, peut-être un jour, le Vatican nous dira ce qu'il fabrique avec le régime de Paul Biya. Parce que vous ne pouvez pas vous permettre autant de fréquentation avec des gens déconseillables, peu recommandables. Imaginez un évêque ou un prêtre pendant 44 ans, continue de venir rendre visite à un chef de gang dans un village, dans une ville. Chaque fois, on le voit prendre, couper la bière avec des dealers, des vendeurs de gros, des vendeurs de cure. On se demande bien, même s'il veut rentrer dans la logique où Jésus est venu pour les pécheurs, mais à un moment donné, on va quand même se poser des questions, Duval. Premier jour où on vous voit avec le chef des proxénètes, 2 ans après on vous revoit avec le même chef de proxénètes, 4e fois on vous voit avec le même chef de proxénètes, même si c'est pour le reconvertir, ça sera un peu difficilement acceptable. Moi, je souhaite vivement que l'hypothèse évoquée par Edmond soit vraiment la plus pertinente, c'est-à-dire qu'elle se réalise finalement. Parce que chez nous, l'extrême onction qu'on appelle moine voix, donc ça veut dire la dernière huile qu'on te met sur le visage, c'est en fait lorsque quelqu'un a du mal à mourir. Quelqu'un agonise, il a du mal à mourir, finalement. On dit, allez appeler un prêtre. Peut-être que par là, il va mourir. Si le pape vient pour mettre l'huile là sur le régime de Yaoundé, pour finalement mourir, je crois que ça sera une bonne option. Ça veut dire qu'on n'est plus affaire au régime dictatorial de Yaoundé. Si le pape a dans sa valise cette petite bouteille d'huile là, alors on lui ouvre grandement nos bras. Mais si c'est pour continuer à flirter sans incidence sur le quotidien des Camerounais avec les gens peu recommandables, ça devient problématique. À ce moment, on va dire à sa sainteté, avec tout le respect qu'on vous doit, vraiment vous n'êtes pas la bienvenue. Nous, on ne va pas vous accueillir. Peut-être ceux qui ont des fois fanatisé pourront peut-être vous accueillir, mais pas nous autres qui avons une foi lucide. Nous sommes lucides. Donc il y a une grosse différence entre une allégeance qu'on peut faire à un homme de Dieu et notre foi en nous. Moi je suis demeuré chrétien, je suis resté chrétien catholique, confirmé, mais depuis 2004, je ne mets pas moi pied dans des églises. Je ne veux pas avoir de problème avec Dieu. Par conséquent, je ne veux pas suivre ce que les prêtres disent, parce que je les connais. Même les évêques, je les connais. Leurs casseroles, je les connais. Donc ça risque de me mettre en difficulté avec Dieu. Je préfère m'éloigner totalement de tout ce qui est synagogue et église, parce que je ne veux pas écouter ce que les prêtres disent. Donc, monsieur Duval Fangwa, lorsque vous avez fait allusion à ce que Aloïse a dit la dernière fois, c'est comme si on s'était entendu. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, j'allais revenir sur cette chronologie. Ça veut dire que le pape n'arrive au Cameroun que lorsque Yaoundé vient de commettre des forfaits. Lorsque Yaoundé vient de poser des actes ignobles. Je ne sais pas si c'est la coïncidence. Si c'est la coïncidence. Si c'est...
On fait un coup d'état, on menace un coup d'état au président Paul Biya.
On sait ce qui s'est passé après quand même.
Non, mais pas...
Il y a eu plus. On sait ce qui s'est passé après. Il y a eu plus. Oui, on sait ce qui s'est passé. Oui, on n'a pas dit non. Mais ça ne justifie rien. Monsieur Bidima, vous avez évoqué la dérive ici. Nous sommes tout à fait d'accord qu'il y a eu dérive. Mais est-ce que vous pouvez nous présenter un seul article de la loi qui dit que lorsqu'on brûle, on tue à bout portant? Il n'y a aucune loi. Il y a Père Simo Fokam qui a été tué ici à Bilongué. Ça veut dire un papa qui va dans une boutique aller chercher de quoi manger. Et puis quelqu'un dit à côté, il dit à un militaire, faites bien votre travail. Et puis le gars il se retourne, bim, il lui met une fois une balle, il meurt. Pas à lui, mais à papa Simo. Et vous allez venir justifier cela avec les dérives. Nous sommes tout à fait d'accord que lorsqu'il y a dérives au cours des manifestations, et ça ne se passe pas seulement ici au Cameroun, même en France il y a souvent dérives, on casse, mais on ne tire pas à bout portant. On ne tue pas. Donc juste pour vous faire savoir que lorsque le pape arrive ici au Cameroun, c'est toujours au lendemain des forfaits commis par l'ordre de 82. En 85, même chose. En 95, même chose. En 2009, même chose. Aujourd'hui, 2026. Si le Vatican est de bonne foi, il faut qu'il admette aussi que nous autres,
lisions la chose comme une certaine instrumentalisation de l'Église catholique, de la hiérarchie de l'Église catholique ou du Vatican par l'ordre de 82. C'est aussi ça la réalité. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, il faut que les Camerounais sachent que, au-delà du leadership spirituel ou religieux qu'incarne le Vatican reste un État. Et comme on le disait tout à l'heure, nous sommes dans des postures purement réalistes. Le Vatican a également ses intérêts. Le Vatican peut rester dans le business de la foi. Alors, il se rend compte qu'il y a un marché assez large en Afrique centrale. Vous avez évoqué les chiffres tout à l'heure. Il faut aller conforter ce marché qui aujourd'hui se rend à l'évidence que lorsqu'on massacre les Camerounais, le peuple camerounais, le Vatican est complètement muet, ou alors les évêques sont totalement muets en dehors de quelques têtes grillées comme Monseigneur Cléda. Mais le reste, c'est complètement l'alignement. Alors, dans cet environnement-là, peut-être le pape peut dire, je viens sauver mon business de la foi en Afrique centrale en général et au Cameroun en particulier. Je crois qu'aujourd'hui, M. Duval Fangwa, il faut que les Camerounais restent lucides pour évaluer le bien fondé d'une politique publique ou d'un acte. Il faut évaluer ses incidences au niveau de nos ménages. Depuis que le pape vient ici au Cameroun, il y a eu quoi? Le pape est venu en 85 ici au Cameroun. Il y a eu combien de guerres après le pape? Le pape est venu ici pour venir rencontrer les séminaristes. Mais ces séminaristes sont des voleurs. Des séminaristes voleurs. Des séminaristes qui peuvent accumuler des milliards pendant que le peuple est en train de mourir de soif. Mais le pape revient toujours voir les mêmes séminaristes. Les séminaristes détruisent ce qui nous reste de base de survie. Mais le pape revient, il dit, bon, moi je viens juste causer avec les séminaristes. Non, il faut qu'à un moment donné, le pape, s'il aime vraiment le peuple camerounais, qu'il prenne position et qu'il dise aux gens de Yaoundé, vous êtes infréquentables. Je ne vous fréquente plus. Parce que chaque fois, quand le pape arrive, qu'est-ce que les communicants, agents publicitaires du RDPC disent? Ils disent tout simplement que, bon, vous voyez, le pape ne peut venir que chez les gens qui sont sorts. Si on était si violent, le pape ne serait pas chez nous régulièrement. C'est parce que le pape trouve en nous l'esprit des séminaristes, l'esprit de ceci et cela. Pourtant, nous ici au Cameroun, on sait qu'en face de nous, on a affaire aux diabloteurs. Donc il faut qu'à un moment donné, si le pape veut vraiment se redonner une certaine image auprès de l'opinion, il faut dire ça au pape. Que quand il arrive là au Cameroun, qu'il ne se dise pas qu'on ne sait pas ce qu'il veut. Qu'il ne se dise pas que les Camerounais ne sont pas mécontents de la posture du Vatican. Je ne sais même pas avec qui il a causé. Parce que si le pape, lui, il arrive, il cause avec moi, je vais dire sa sainteté. La seule chose que je vous demande, c'est de quitter mon pays, point. Parce que vous ne nous apportez absolument rien. À ce moment précis, je crois qu'il va beaucoup réfléchir. Mais si c'est que chaque fois, quand il arrive, quand on sait bel et bien que les Camerounais, avec la foi, vraiment, la meilleure façon de dominer les Camerounais, c'est de les tirer dans ce couloir. Et Yaoundé l'a compris, chaque fois, il faut investir. Parce qu'il faut dire que derrière cette visite papale, il y a toujours une contrepartie en termes d'investissement financier. Ça veut dire que les voyages du pape sont cofinancés entre l'État qui reçoit le pape et le Vatican. Alors nous, on va passer tout notre temps à dépenser autant de milliards pour recevoir le pape qui ne nous apporte absolument rien. Ne serait-ce que pour condamner les gars de Yaoundé. Donc je crois que quand le pape... une minute.
Non, 30 secondes.
Voilà, le pape en arrivant ici au Cameroun, je répète, il faut qu'il sache qu'on ne l'aime pas du tout. Nous, les en bas d'en bas, on ne l'aime pas. On ne l'aime pas pourquoi? Parce qu'il continue de fréquenter quelqu'un qui est peu recommandable. On ne l'aime pas aussi parce que on va venir endormir les Camerounais avec les histoires liées à la foi. Pourtant, on a des besoins d'ordre pratique. Et chaque fois qu'on parle de foi, les Camerounais, c'est comme si on les... voilà. Donc, c'est comme si on les endiablait. Et Yaoundé surfe chaque fois sur ce levier. Il faut financer. C'est pourquoi vous allez voir, des gens sont toujours régulièrement à l'église. Ils ouvrent leur large bouche, ils prennent la communion. Le lendemain, ils sont les premiers à dire sur les plateaux de télévision, à convoquer la presse pour dire que les enfants qu'ils ont tués sont des assaillants. Et ce sont ces mêmes gens qui sont toujours assis devant. Ce sont ces mêmes gens qui invitent les évêques à leur dire les mettre chez eux. Ce sont ces mêmes agents qui offrent des églises. Et on croit que ce sont des saints, pourtant de bons diablotins.
Comme l'hirondelle qui annonce le printemps dans un pot.
And so any moment from now, and there comes the Pope. And that's the Pope.
Et Voici donc le pape Léon XIV qui atterrit dans la terre camerounaise. Il est 2h11 en Simalais. Il descend les marches de l'échelle de coupé ici à l'aéroport international de Simalène pour ce premier voyage apostolique au Cameroun.
He has a white castle and it's called Cameroun. They are all symbols of, I think, humility, symbols of holiness, symbols of charity, and then he's received by the Prime Minister
Léon
and the
XIV,
government.
Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République du Cameroun, Madame Chantal Biya, son épouse, et l'ensemble du peuple camerounais vous souhaitent une chaleureuse bienvenue et un agréable séjour au Cameroun. Your Holiness Pope Leo XIV, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Mrs. Chantal Biya, his wife, and the people of Cameroon wish you a warm welcome and a pleasant stay in Cameroon.
We are to Cameroon, that's how we say it in Cameroon, that's what, yeah, in the center region. Jabana, for those in the Bana region, they are all glued to the screens right now. And behind the